Hi, and thank you for joining me once again for the Darrin Chatter podcast. Today I'm going to read blog number 192 entitled, You Are Going to Die. Start Living Accordingly. I'm going to share the blog first, and then I'm going to add some additional thoughts at the end, as I typically do. I hope you enjoy this one. I have written about this topic more than once, and I have every intention of continuing that trend. I can only think of a few things that I would consider in the same ballpark in terms of importance for your life. Most of us live our lives oblivious to the fact that it will end at some point. As a kid, you have to learn about death through things like the loss of a pet or maybe a family member. It seems we are not born with this general knowledge about death. As life goes on, we learn about this through the loss of other family members and friends, hopefully following the natural order of your grandparents and then your grandparents, and so on. Things get dicey when this order is misaligned, and many have not developed the capacity to deal with something this heavy early on in life. Only when we get older do we start getting an inkling about having the end of the road, and in some cases, one could say the realization almost always comes too late. By this, I mean, we need to be cognizant of this looming deadline much sooner so that we can do a better job at life. Whatever that means is, I guess, well, that's open to interpretation. So often I speak with people my age, which happens to be 50 at the moment, that are just now realizing that they missed their calling in life or that they're starting to learn what makes them happy. In some cases, I am writing about these things because I am personally familiar with, and this topic is no exception. It took me surviving a near-death experience of a head-on collision with a drunk driver to finally start the process of pursuing a public speaking career. You can read that story in another blog if you like. Since I already shared that story, I had planned on going in a different direction with this blog. One of my younger friends recently had his own experience with a serious car accident. It was a month later after this had happened, and he was still nursing a few injuries from this experience. I have another close friend, also younger than me, who was battling an eating disorder. A third stint in rehab, also in the time of COVID-19. Each of these situations is a wake-up call, if you can view it in that manner. The problem with being younger and less seasoned in life is that things like this can easily get glossed over. Something happens, you get past it one way or another, and you move on, rarely if ever thinking about it again. You would think a brush with death would rattle you to the core, but at a younger age, most of us think that we are indestructible. Also, when bad things happen to us, we tend to want to block it out and forget that it ever happened. Not the healthiest way of dealing with it, and certainly not the approach that is going to allow you to learn from that. What happens becomes just another experience that we see in the rearview mirror. We continue to live our lives like there's no expiration date on it. Here's something to consider. What if you were handed a piece of paper with a message on it that read clearly, "You are going to die on this date"? How much impact would that have on the way you live right now? What if you had a year to live? Not 50 or 80. You had 1 year left to live. Are you going to bother going to work or to school every day? Would you sell everything that you own and travel to New Zealand like you always dreamed? Would you buy the car that you've always wanted and drive from the east to the west coast? Would you teach your kids how to play baseball or ride a horse before it was too late? In my opinion, you should do this exercise for yourself, even though none of us know what our own expiration date is. I am finally getting around to doing things that I thought about and wanted to do for a long time. Quite a few years ago, I scrounged up $3,000 to attend a seminar on how to be a keynote speaker. This was in my early 30s, right after my pro racquetball career, and I did not have that kind of money at the time. But it was something that I really wanted to do. It meant enough to me to find a way to do it, and I figured out how to put the money together, and I attended that boot camp. But I didn't follow through. I went to the boot camp, and I never took the next step to start myself down that career path. Think about how different my life could be right now had I pursued this sooner. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy in my life the way it is. But what if? Today, I am working from home, and I realized that my job has a whole lot more flexibility than I was aware. I've always wanted to have the opportunity to work from anywhere instead of being in an office 40 hours or more a week. Now that I work from home, it is quite apparent that I have a lot of fluff built into my job that is not necessary. And being in that traditional office environment perpetuated that problem. Now that I'm separated from everybody else in my company, it became clear to me that much of my time during the day was filler material. I had a lot more freedom and flexibility than I ever realized or chose to exercise. What I want to attain is a work from anywhere lifestyle, not just work from home. My wife has a different kind of flexibility. As a nurse, she can work a few days in a row and have up to 6 or 7 days off. This gives us a lot of flexibility to do things that we want to do, like go to California for a long weekend or head to Denver for a couple of days and go hiking and do some other outdoor activities that we love. I can schedule my work duties in clumps of time as well and give myself the freedom of the lifestyle that I had always envisioned. Again, why did it take a pandemic to show me that this opportunity had been there all along? Well, I'll tell you why. I, like many other people, go through the motions of life sometimes. It's so easy to get in the groove of just doing what everybody else does. We go to school, we go to college, we get a job, we start a family, and quickly wake up as a 50-year-old without having doing many of the things that we should have done in our lives. Now, as I've said before, I did do things differently than most people have, as the blueprint that I just shared was not for me. I pursued my dream of being a pro racquetball player until age 30. This was something I knew that I needed to do, otherwise my life would have echoes of what if throughout it my entire days on the planet. But after this time of my life, I fell into a pattern of drifting, waiting to see what would happen next, and then reacting to it. I want you to learn from this experience of mine, and the sooner the better. Don't allow yourself to drift aimlessly. You know what makes you happy, what you want to do. If you don't, start working hard to figure that out. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's world travel, if it's climbing a mountain, if it's getting married and having kids, if it's riding a motorcycle across Europe. Whatever it is, start planning for it, take action, and make it happen. This isn't an excuse to be reckless or not plan for a long life, but instead it is a warning about complacency. As I mentioned earlier, the expiration date on your life is a mystery to everyone. So live like you know it's going to be within the next 5 years. It could easily be sooner, but I think of that 5-year window as a good operating system. As crazy as this may sound, I want you to give it some serious thought. You need to use your own death as a motivator. In the end, it gets us all. So be aware of this and start living your life accordingly. If you are lucky to be sitting in a retirement home thinking about this life, and the regrets that you have are going to largely be tied to the things that you just did that you never got a chance to do. The choices that you didn't make. Regret is a terrible thing. So look at that as soon as possible by starting an action plan and making things happen. Nobody is out of life alive. talked about a bunch of these same topics frequently. I figured out what I wanted to do early on in life. I never had aspirations to own a business or be an architect or anything like that. I went to college because that was what I should do after going through high school. But there was one thing that I was sure of, and that's that I wanted to be a pro racquetball player. So I left college, moved back to Phoenix, started working in a health club, rounded out some sponsors, and pursued the life of being a pro racquetball. A few years later, I was able to turn pro and do that full time. And I did that until I was completely burned out and sick of that life. At age 30, I retired. That was my crazy audacious big dream that I wanted to pursue, and I was fortunate enough to figure that out early and also put a plan of action in place. After that, I definitely drifted trying to find what to do, but I would say that is by far the lesson achievable than if I had married my husband, had a couple of kids right away, gotten a job, and that was my life by age 25, never having stepped foot on a racquetball court again. That would have been very detrimental in my mind to being the person that I am today for sure, but being a happy individual in general. I know the question of what if would have driven me crazy. And so I'm really happy that I can look back on that because I took that chance and made it happen. But what a great bookend to the other side of my life, to work towards a lifestyle of work from anywhere, have the money and the financial freedom to travel, to do things and experiences that I've always wanted to do, and things that my wife and I want to do together. That would be an amazing thing to work towards, and we're very, very close. Her job gives her flexibility. My job gives me a different type of flexibility that still blends with hers. And financially, we are almost debt-free, and very soon we'll be able to shift our lifestyle to having no debt whatsoever, including our house paid off, and be world travelers if we choose to, or she can take a nursing assignment in another city for 3 months or 6 months. I can travel with her. We close down the house in Phoenix. We go somewhere else for 6 months and live there. We come back and we pick up our lives where we left off. Always something that I've wanted to do, and I'm very, very close to putting that into making that become a reality as well. I cannot encourage you enough to find a way to get motivated to do similar things, not the same things, of course, whatever your version of that story should be. And again, if you want to be married and have kids, great, do that. That wasn't my personal choice. I did things differently. Whatever it is that you want to do, you need to start working towards that, because you will wake up one day and most of your life will be behind you, and you will regret never taking action. So, if it takes something as dark and ominous as your own death to be used as motivation, that was the message that I wanted you to take away from this. If that's what it takes, then understand that your life, just like everyone else's, has an expiration date on it, and you need to live your life accordingly. But don't assume that that expiration date is 90 years old. Assume that it's no more than 5 years out. What are you going to start doing today so that you can put into motion that if, in fact, 5 years from now, that is the end, you can look back and say, wow, look at all the things I did. Look at the life I got to live. Those are the benefits. Those are the things that have you living a happy life. And then you continue to repeat that 5-year block for however long that you're able to be here on earth living your life. That's how I want to look at it for myself, and I believe that that will be a great approach to life. So, with that in mind, in your endeavors. If there's anything I can help with, please reach out to me directly through my website at darrinchatter.com and go to the contact page